Welcome to the Vision Profiles podcast. Join us, dedicated Apple Vision Pro users, as we dive into everything from hardware and software to apps and the latest updates in the world of Apple Vision Pro. I'm Marty Gensius, a faculty member at a Midwest University, podcaster, and Apple product fan.
I'm Eric Bolden.
Eric, are you just going to do a spit take?
I drink coffee. I was reading through it. I'm looking at it. It's like, oh no, it's my line.
Take two.
My interest is in finding interesting ways to share content. Currently, photography of plants, birds, panoramic sequences, and I'm sure something else special in the future.
And I am Dave Ginsburg. I am the host of In Touch with iOS podcast. I'm passionate about technology, especially Apple, and used it in a real world experience as a 27-year IT professional and iPhone subject matter expert. I learn things about the Vision Pro every day.
And it's a night off for Daniel. You know, Eric, I'm going to leave that in. I'm not editing that out. That'll teach you. That'll teach you.
Extra work.
Public shaming. That's the power of the producer. Daniel's not with us tonight. He's got a night off. And you can follow us on the live YouTube stream at youtube.com/@symbol Vision Profiles on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, or catch the video later on YouTube or the audio on any of your podcast services. Okay, I've been still doing Vision Pro notes in the feed, so you will occasionally see those 5-10 minute things pop up 3 times a week, Monday morning to kind of promo a piece that we're going to do Monday night on the full show, and then again Wednesday and Friday. And I think I kind of hit the jackpot today because late last night I was checking the feeds, and the article came out about Ming-Chi Kuo and his predictions of what headsets are going to happen. And even when I was recording it last night, I said, this thing's going to blow up. And I got up this morning to kind of check, the feed on any stories on Vision Pro. And it's in like multiple times it's being sent to the same place, different countries, every kind of little teeny website is picking it up and rewriting the story, and it gets more and more preposterous as it goes on.
And you're surprised?
It turns from, well, there's this guy with some rumors, and he's based on, supply chain, and he's made some claims before, and some of them have turned out, and some of them haven't turned out. But this is a big claim. And then it turns into a reality in these articles that come out 8 hours later. Now it's a sure thing, according to some of these folks. It's still a rumor. So I put a couple of articles in. One that was from 9 to 5 Mac, which was a good source for the information. And, they talk about the 7 head mounted products that are going to come out. The roadmap starts in 2025. That first one being, apparently, according to the roadmap, it's going to be in the third quarter, and it's going to be a Vision Pro M5 version. And then you get further along the line, we are not going to see a Vision Pro Gen 2 until the second quarter of 2028, a Vision Air coming out in the third quarter of 2027, Ray-Ban's sunglasses that Mark Gurman has said is going to come out sometime in, said it's going to come out sometime this year. So we're all getting Ray-Ban sunglasses or Apple band sunglasses for Christmas. Now, Ming-Chi Kuo says, no, we're not going to see him till the second quarter of 2027. Again, these are all predictions. They make different predictions from different sources and based on different things. Having a display accessory like Mac glasses, and they have some video showing what that would look like, which is pretty interesting. in terms of a setup for it. They don't even know. He has no prediction on when those are going to come out. And then smart glasses type XR glasses, probably not until the second quarter of 2028. So it's an interesting list of predictions. Guys, did you spend much time with this? And what are your thoughts?
I try to avoid Ming Chi Ho. It's you stick my head every time. I mean, I could see possibly the third quarter of an M5 version Vision Pro. We're going almost 2 years now with the current Vision Pro model, so it is very possible. But I question that. But then now that he's pushing out Vision Air as a potentially lower price one at the third quarter of 27, that's a long time from now.
Yeah, that's the long game with that.
Yeah. And then they said the second generation of the Vision Pro won't come out until the second half of 2028.
Yeah.
that's 3 years from now. So I mean,
well, you better get your $3,500 worth at that point.
Yeah, I think we will. I mean, I'm not giving this thing up anytime quickly here. But even all the other stuff, the Ray-Ban like glasses, then there's been rumors about that for a while, and they're obviously not ready yet. I mean, Meta released theirs, and it was a cheap one, $219. If I remember when it first came out. I don't think it went over really that crazy. I think people were intrigued of its gadgetry of it all. I almost bought one and then I canceled the order because it didn't order ship. I probably should have kept it, but I didn't. I don't know if you bought one, but Marty. But so yeah, hard to say. There's so many others with Oakley. I think didn't Oakley partner with Meta as well. So you're going to see more of these quote unquote cheaper versions, but Apple still holds their ground and wants to make sure that the device is going to be solid, just like what they've done with the Apple Intelligence. They are taking their time. So I don't think it's going anywhere fast. But with all the new content, the F1 movie out now, I can't wait to go see that. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet. I assume not.
Tomorrow morning.
I really want to go see it now because the craze has been really high. So just these in general, I think if Apple continues on with this amazing content and to be able to partner with the director for F1, and they were super stoked about being able to create as a movie maker with this, it can go higher. I mean, I just see what we have existing is pretty darn good for now. I mean, when being with the processor it has now, it's just a little more. I think we got a little more work to do, but yes.
Yeah. Eric, your thoughts?
There's not enough media yet to come out with a tiny cheap headset, because everybody would get it. It would be all over the place, and then they'd be all screaming about where's the stuff to watch. So we're in no rush for that, but there's been really pretty good corporate interest, and a little bit more power, a little more headroom in the headset would help with that quite a bit. So I could see an M5-ish model soon, because I think that would help a lot, and it would last for quite a while. Pushing out glasses or something else for a couple of years, that doesn't seem unreasonable to me. Given the recent news on cameras and better instructions on how to film and better editing tools, figuring a year and a half between when all that stuff comes out, everybody figures out what it is, gets it, and has cameras available for rent, that you got another year and a half. So yeah, an updated processor in a Vision Pro makes a lot of sense. Everything else, I would say, push it out a little bit.
Will you get an M5 if it comes out?
Oh yeah, I'm starting to save. I have a separate account set aside for that. There's nothing in the account, but it.
Maybe we'll get a nice trade-in for the model.
I don't know if I would even trade in, because I've got enough different people I want to talk to that, I'd maybe send them my old one, get a new one, and I there isn't anything about the current headset that's would keep it from being useful for at least another couple of years. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm more impressed every update with the current headset.
Mine would probably go to my son, but I hope he's not listening. So I couldn't resist this other article, which, like I said, I paged through at least 50 of the same article on Ming-Chi Kuo's prediction. Today, when I got up this morning, it's like I got to put together more show notes, see if anything that came out I need to grab. It was just pages and pages of this particular article, except for this one. This
Android
comes
headlines.
Android headlines. It's the website Android headlines. After Vision Pro's flop, Apple doubles down on headsets. So it's sort of
Ooh.
like they're so stupid, they've decided to double down on stupid.
Oh, if only if Jeff Gamma was here to tell us about that teaser headline there.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost feel guilty clicking on it because it is a pretty, and it's a short article. It's a
Yeah.
teeny little article and doesn't really add any new content to it other than to say Samsung and Google are keen to step into that space with Project Moohan, powered by Google's Android XR platform. Yeah, okay. What are you going to do with it? I mean, tell me what the platform is. So yeah, I had to put that one in. Folks can catch the
Oh.
link to it, and you can catch the link to it, but please don't click on it. They don't need any help.
Too late.
Yeah. So speaking of Samsung, this almost made Pro Notes last night because then Ming-Chi Kuo, gave me red meat to talk about in Pro Notes. And I thought we would talk a little bit about, and we had spoken about this, I think, on Dave's show, and I'm not sure we spoke about it on Chuck's show, but the idea that Samsung is coming out with a new headset that could beat Apple Vision Pro with a sharper 3,800 pixels per inch OLEDoS display, but a smaller field of view. And I have a couple of articles on here where they're praising Samsung's new Project Moohan, which we haven't seen yet. There has been a bunch of stories on a project that we haven't seen the final product of, nor have we gotten anything clear from the company other than this release with regard to getting these Sony screens, these tiny Sony screens. A little bit in the article talking about how, well, they wanted to buy more and Apple wanted to buy more, but they put the kibosh on Apple buying more, Sony that is. And they're not sure that they can supply Samsung with all that they'll need. Some interesting analysis on these articles in terms of, so it's 38. It's got a couple of more PPIs in it that, it's got 100 or more PPIs in it than the Apple screen, but it's smaller. So when it comes to actual using it, it doesn't necessarily mean more clarity. And there's some error where you get some clarity maybe in the center of the screen, but as you move out to the periphery, you lose the advantage of that clarity, especially with the smaller screen size. Guys, talk to me.
It's Samsung. Let's just face it. It's just Is that important to get 3800 PPI OLED displays? I don't know. I mean, but the smaller field of view, I mean, my gosh, I mean, the field of view we already get on the Vision Pro is actually amazing in itself. I'd be curious to see what it looks like, but it's also running Android, so I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
how,
What's
how
the platform? What's the ecosystem?
yeah, we don't know yet because no one's been able to see it yet. It hasn't been out in the wild. I mean, we're admittedly we're all biased because we're Apple fanboys. Let's face it.
Yeah.
And Vision OS is a good operating system. We think it's improved quite a bit now. Now in beta with 3.0. But are they going to redefine this? I don't know. I find it hard to believe. I mean, Samsung's decisions on where to go with this technology has been questionable at best.
And we don't know anything about the spatial aspect of it. Is it just really clear screens and you're still looking in a you're looking at two-dimensional projection, or are you getting anything that's spatial out of this? Because we don't know about the cameras. We don't know if, what the rest of the system looks like.
Right.
Eric, your
I
thoughts?
I just think it's great that they're coming out with this because we can then finally have something to compare to. And I'm hoping it'll be like a $4,500 device, and then we'll have a nice comparison between the Apple headset and this headset, and everybody finally can get over themselves and then move on.
Yeah, I think you're right with that. We've got I'm and there was even some discussion, I think, yeah, in the comments section of the article saying, first of all, this resolution is not necessarily good. Second of all, it's a fail because of the field of vision. If there's a smaller field of vision, that's been a complaint probably about 20% of the folks with Apple Vision Pro. So they've already lost on that ground if that's the case. And we don't know what the operating system is going to be like. We don't know what kind of support it's going to have. I mean, with an Apple ecosystem, at least you've got apps that are built around that particular system. Whereas what we don't know, we just don't know how it's going to run on an Android system.
I mean, realistically, if all it did was let you share a computer screen into the headset, it would probably still be worth it. Not
Yeah,
enjoyable, but
No.
still worth it.
yeah. Is it going to have the collaborative stuff that we can do now with Vision Pro? Is it going to be able to do? I mean, who knows? We got folks in the chat room. Welcome to the chat room. If you've got questions or comments, please join us. Or if you're currently listening to us live, you can find us at youtube.com/at Vision Profiles and join the rest of the folks that are in the chat room with questions or comments that you would like. I don't know if there's much more to say about the this headset. I've got 3 articles in that talking about Project Moohan, which is the Samsung headset, and their claims of more pixel density and whether that really means anything.
Mm-hmm.
Article that came out, it's Gadgets 360, not necessarily a hot place to go, but Apple Vision Pro development reportedly halted amidst poor sales. Cheaper headset set for 2025 launch. I don't know. Not according to Ming-Chi Kuo. But the article goes in and talks about, of course, the cost. And then it goes into it bleeds into some other things about Google Pixel and flip phones and things like that. But while the Vision Pro 2 might not happen, Apple still reports it has plans for a new headset. The report suggests that cheaper version of Vision Pro may launch before the end of 2025. And this model is speculated to come at a lower price tag with fewer features. To achieve this, Apple said it had diverted resources from the development of the Vision Pro 2 to another team which may be working to bring down the cost of Vision Pro's components. I'm not sure where they're talking about a report, but they're not claiming where they got the report from. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. Okay, so Dave, I put these two articles in because you were all about Bono, and nothing wrong with that. Great, it was a great video. But inside the first featured length immersive film for Apple Vision Pro, Bono, Bono, Stories of Surrender, and this is an article that kind of engages the director, the filmmaker, and talks about spatial storytelling and weaving together and what was a part of it, the technical innovation. We're hearing a lot this week about the Blackmagic URSA Cine immersive cameras. We'll have some articles on that coming up, but this is an example of that kind of bleeding into the whole process. And Eric sent a good video, a good 30-minute video on that. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And, you know, Bono is vulnerable. Viewers can see the surgical scars and imperfections with startling clarity, stripping away the protective distance of the conventional films provide. Comments? Dave?
I mean, Bono knew what he was getting into when he did this production. If he was concerned about how he looked, I mean, I think he'd have a problem with it, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, it was a good story. There was a lot of things I didn't know about Bono that he gave the story of his life. I mean, his book wasn't. I didn't read his book, but I've heard comments from family members and others who are big U2 fans that said they had a tough time getting through the book. I think the movie started to get a little slow towards the end, and I was intrigued the way that the story went with, but him talking to his father and using that he was sitting with his father and all that stuff, and I don't know. I thought the graphics with the immersive stuff with the drawings were kind of cheesy, in my opinion. I mean, it worked, but I was expecting more at the end. After I think back to it, because it's been quite a few weeks since I watched it, and because I watched it, I think a day after it had been talked about here. So, but no, I like the technology innovation out of it. I mean, definitely interesting to hear what Eric has to say about this Blackmagic camera here. But it is something that I think it was a good start. It was a really good start, but I want to see more.
Yeah, the two articles that we have, one is MZEd, Education for Filmmakers, and that is inside the first feature-length immersive film for Apple Vision Pro, Bono, Stories of Surrender. And then the other article that we have is from Leah for Creative, or it's from Little Black Book, Behind the Work, How the Artery Brought Bono Stories of Surrender to Apple Vision Pro. Now, even if you haven't seen this video, I think you're curious about how filmmaking is now, if you're going to an immersive kind of space, you can read through this article and learn a lot about the kind of compromises or changes they made in the filmmaking space to do it. So if kind of you're interested in filmmaking, you're interested in optics and all of that, these articles would be interesting. And it might then you might go, oh, I really want to see this because now I want to see the story and how this plays out in the story. Eric, comments?
There really just are not a lot of examples of full-length video. So I think if you are interested in producing any films or working on any projects, it's almost a requirement to watch just to see kind of how they put it together. And if you watch, and I mean, I found it enjoyable too, but it was also enjoyable just watching kind of technically how things were put together. And if you watch that and then start to watch for the different cameras and different editing systems that have come out, what those features are and what they're stressing as they're talking about the features, and then go back and rewatch the film again, then you get to see elements of what everybody's talking about and strengths and weaknesses and changes. And, as we've said in the past, everything that's come out for the Vision Pro has been different.
Yeah.
Everyone has learned something, and this wasn't produced overnight. It took them a while. So the cameras that have just shipped, that's all brand new. And we haven't seen projects that have really come out of those cameras yet. So I'm excited about the whole thing. It was the first one, really,
Mhm.
and interesting and had elements we hadn't seen before. And that's kind of what I was looking for. Plus, I enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
I said, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's just, it had just like any movie you've seen. You're gonna,
Yep.
it's some movies are gonna have their moments.
I like what happens when they release something new and immersive.
Mhm.
Is you get the experience and you maybe get a description of what the experience is going to be like. And then a couple weeks later, people start asking questions about how did they do that? And what angles. And we've even had discussions, the race up to the top of Pikes Peak about the camera angles and how many cameras must have been in place in order to do that and where they were in place. So I think there's a natural curiosity about this new medium and how it's being shot. And it's nice when we do get articles like the two that we have linked here with about the immersive filmmaking experience. Before we go into the next set, I just want to mention Brian, who's in the chat room, said, I think in reference, obviously, to the Samsung headset, it'll be interesting to see if it connects well with other aspects of Samsung's ecosystem, like the phone, as it's a big plus for Apple having a wider ecosystem with phone, watch, and, TV, and also iPad in terms of being able to connect that way. So thanks for that comment, Brian. All right. I want to go back to another article. And we talked about this before on other shows. And I did a pro notes on this last week, coming into this week's show. Today I got a message from someone. It's one of the people I do podcasts with, and wanted to know about, because we'll have our 100th show coming up, and want to know if we're going to do anything special for the 100th show. And then he informed me that he tested positive through one of those poop in the box things. And so now he's going to be going through a colonoscopy and, with a positive test, what does that mean? And I think he what he said was, we ought to do that for our 100th show. They'll just, just publish, put my scope up on it. And if it could be done, he'd probably be up to it. But I got to say, I think he reached out to me because not because he heard this story, but he knows that I had gone through colorectal cancer. And this is a story that hit the market. It's just another example of how Vision Pro is being used as a medical device. I don't know if you want to call it an enterprise device, but really for medical purposes. But this was the article from Apple Insider. And then there is another article from Mass Device where they talk mainly from the company's perspective, Medtronic and Cosmo, working with GI Genius. Well, I think GI Genius is the medical company that makes the probe for this, and then being able to connect it to Apple Vision. And Dave's a Chicagoland guy, and I'm a Chicagoland guy, but it being done at Rush Hospital is going to be doing the studies. And my brother-in-law worked at Rush's emergency room for years, and so it's just good to see. It's good to see that folks are doing that. And you can read more in the articles, but I don't know, guys. Do you have any comments?
No, I think that was a good hospital system to choose. It's very renowned, very well respected, and very big hospital system. So it's good to see that they're looking at this.
All right. This article I thought was interesting. I don't know if you got through this. It was really kind of another enterprise look at the Vision Pro. And Mantle, I looked at some of their video. Mantle, I think, is like design, or it looks like architectural design of some way. And this article, kind of, the writer of it talks about how the Vision Pro has all sorts of potential and how it can be used for various things from an enterprise standpoint. And it starts out with the strengths like unparalleled AR pass-through, immersive experiences that you can have, and you can create quality displays with that, collaboration and the ability to collaborate. And that's been really emphasized in the latest release, at least the developer release, and that's going to do that. The sense of spatial audio, intuitive interactions in terms of our ability to manipulate and use the Vision Pro. It's the Apple ecosystem integration. That's also something that they say is part of the weakness, is that it's tied only to Apple integration at this point. Of course, the heavy, bulky, tethered battery that has to go around. I don't think the blessing of this article is I don't think they mentioned the price in it. Oh no, sorry.
No, they did.
Price
They
point.
did.
Yeah. Price
scroll
point.
a little further.
Just paged down. Yeah, I scrolled further, and the price is too high for a lot of people to justify mainstream development for it. So I think that limits the interest to developers building something that appeals to the mass market. It's not plug and play, which is another kind of weakness that they say about it. But it then follows up with some good discussion about, what's the approach of the company in terms of dealing with virtual reality headsets and how it can be used. So yeah, just an interesting article. It is again titled The Vision Pro: How to Unlock Its Potential, a Tech Consultant's Perspective. For the Mantle company is apparently an experienced designer at Mantle who wrote this, Maurizio Lamana. Did you have a chance or any comments on it?
Yeah, this one's really interesting because they always go back and measure what they're testing to find out, did it make a difference or not? How much of a difference did it make? What are the future possibilities? So this was a really neat article, an article that takes place like a year from now that I would love to read.
To see how the company actually uses it?
Yes.
Yeah. Dave, any
And to
comments here?
see where
Yeah.
their success is. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave's on the enterprise end of this too. So
Yeah, I was going to I like these example business cases with remote team meetings. I kind of agree with that. It says that facilitate discussions where participants feel fully present. You don't have a choice for being fully present. You're going to have your persona when you're on camera. It's not going off. And I mean, I just did it again for my wife today, a little while ago, and she called me on FaceTime. I happen to have my Vision Pro on. I said, I got to answer this again. And she freaks out every time she sees me. But I think it is going to cause engagement because it's starting now that I've looked at it a few more times in my persona, that it does look a lot better the way it looks. But just going through some of the other stuff, client presentations, training, and workshops, I would love to be able to do it. I've been doing tons of training at work here, and being able to do in virtual spaces, like and we'll talk about virtual in a little bit here with one of my picks. Even client presentations. I mean, you're looking at some pretty cool things, but even like some other business cases like team brainstorming sessions. I think teams would be more engaged when they're doing with the Vision Pro because it's so virtual, and you're really getting more engaged in what and in the way you're brainstorming when you do that. And of course, training simulations and then the AR stuff that we're showing. When they're looking at that jet engine, having it in 3D and being able to do measurements virtually and get more accuracy and working on that. And even sales, I think sales presentations, because that's a big thing. The sales teams or whatever industry it is going to be interesting too. So we got a bit of ways to go before we're getting in the enterprise. I'm not seeing it right now heavily used. We're seeing some examples, but this is a great article, and I actually want to find out more about this company.
yeah. I appreciate when these kind of things come out in terms of that and support that someone's writing sort of generally in a positive frame about what's possible instead of these are all the problems with it. I mean, they acknowledge some of the weaknesses in the platform, but for the sense of innovation that comes from this article, which is nice to hear. Okay,
This is
so
an
we're going to switch.
Australian.
Oh, really?
Sorry,
Australia?
it is.
Yeah.
This is an Australian company. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
That's very cool.
One of the best work. Says one of the best workplaces in technology. Great place to work.
Okay. Well, Dave, are you thinking of moving down under?
No. I'm happy. I'm happy right where I am. Thank you.
You know, the thing in Australia, there's lots of things in Australia in the wilderness or even out in that there are things out there that will kill you. I mean, there's less of that. There's less of that in nature here in the U.S. But in Australia,
only Australia I support is this little baby right here, the Roadcaster.
Yeah,
and road products. It's about as far as I go in technology.
Well, okay, I'm going to get weird on you because I just saw this and thought this was pretty cool. I spent a fair amount of time in my younger days in Second Life, so I was not that young. But kind of going into virtual environments, creating avatars, being engaged in avatars. And this came out, it was a Reddit post. And I'm going to start it. And for those on the video, for those who are watching the video of this, you'll get to see a 20-second clip of what is an open source, spatially intelligent NPC, which is non-player something NPC for Apple Vision Pro. And I'm going to switch to she's like a little goth girl that has plenty of metal interface. And she's playing with a ball, but you can, I guess, interact with her in terms of high-fiving her and things like that. So interesting kind of interactive piece with this. Developers can easily get involved through the GitHub, and it's got an Apache 2.0 license. Feature highlights spatial navigation and ever-updating XR environment, sitting on appropriate surfaces, offering or receiving an item from the user, initiating or receiving high fives, and then attention-based decision making. So kind of an interesting engagement. There are a few of these. Chuck Joyner sent me an article that was in Wired that looked at avatars, and there are a few of these. Like there's that one, Nomi, I think it is, in Vision Pro for, a cheap $25 a month. You can have your little robotic friend that you can interact with. So this is starting to kind of creep into the Vision Pro space if you want to have your own little characters within that. So that was just something I thought was cool.
Agree.
All right. So this is the point where I've got to kind of lean heavily on Eric, because the immersive video workflow and some examples, this video that you talked about made for Apple Vision Pro. And this comes from filmmaker education for filmmakers again, which we talked about earlier with the Bono video that was done. So Eric, can you kind of talk to me like a 5-year-old about this? Like I'm a 5-year-old. No, I don't want you to talk like a 5-year-old. I want you to talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Cookie?
Yes, please.
Here's a cookie.
Yeah, my diabetes would love a cookie.
Yeah. Well, if I can't eat it, at least somebody, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the third option you have, that's the one I spent the most time watching. I just kind of scanned the other ones. And really there's a whole set of videos now that do kind of background on how, is that the third one?
Well, this is the
That's
yeah,
the other
this is
one.
the third one. This is the direct link to the.
So this one is just awesome. So they're describing the camera and they're describing the editing, and they kind of go back and forth, and then they kind of take a step back and they look at each component. How, what are the lenses? How is the stuff recorded? How much space does it take? And then the whole concept of, and then if you add in an Apple Vision Pro, you can sit inside the production environment while you're doing the editing and moving. So it's using the Apple Virtual Desktop to look at the editor, but then after you build a scene, you can then transfer it using the video player software we talked about several weeks ago, and then watch the immersive video playing right off of the Mac. And then do another set of editing. It talks a tiny bit about audio. I think they have some follow-on videos that discuss that. But they also talk about, they show you the different kind of video that you can get into a Vision Pro and what the differences are. And then for the immersive video, how that's set up. And then they go and they look at, it's really two cameras and two videos that are being taken, and then the cameras are positioned so close to each other that each of the cameras can see the other camera. It's kind of like if you take and you sort of cross your eyes, you can see your nose kind of in between everything. You don't really notice it most of the time. So then they talk about how when you're editing the video, you can draw some little knockouts for where the camera lenses are so that that's not visible in the final product. But I had always wondered why all of these videos have kind of weird outlines if you look towards the edge of the screen. This explained it. They also talk about what parts of the image are the most in focus and have the highest resolution, and what parts of the images out near the edge, not so much, and different ways that you could film it and record it, and what has been done in other systems, and why it's not done here, because every time you convert or process the video, you lose a little bit of detail. And so in this case, it's writing the video to a file and then transferring that video along with a bunch of metadata describing how it was filmed and what the resolution was and the rest of the data to the Vision Pro. And then the Vision Pro takes care of rendering it, putting it all together. But the explanation, like, they've done it, they understand it all. This stuff is not shipping yet. This editor is awesome, explaining how the different things work. If you're putting a sequence together, you can preview it in the Apple Vision Pro. But if you're trying to preview it on a studio monitor, brightness levels are a little bit different. So they talk about different ways of setting up your editing system so that you can preview it on a studio monitor or preview it on the Vision Pro, what the brightness levels are, what some of the settings are, the new settings in the editing software that are designed specifically for the Apple Vision Pro. And it's a nice background. And then when you go back through and you watch some other videos, it explains a lot about why things are done the way they're done. So I have, this is the best out of all of the different examples I've seen. A lot of times pieces are talked about, but this kind of goes all the way through on all of the components. So
Well,
very entertaining.
Eric, have you used DaVinci Resolve?
Nope.
Okay.
Kind of want
All
to
right.
now, but this version isn't out yet. This is all
Yeah,
still beta.
they mentioned it's not out yet, and I wonder, we supposedly have an app that's going to be available on the Vision Pro by Adobe that will allow you to edit within the Vision Pro. DaVinci Resolve works on iPads and it works on Macs, and so maybe we're looking at a leap towards it also being available on Vision Pro. I don't know.
I,
I
I
know a lot of people who use DaVinci Resolve and they love it. So
Well, one of the things they talk about is when you're going and doing the editing and processing, how much time it actually takes to process some of these videos, and how on the fastest computer Apple makes, it still takes some time to do the processing. And you can do some scenes where you can play it and see it in near real time, but it's dropping frames to make it work so that the audio and everything all lines up. And they explain kind of how that works. And so I mean, I think for a lot of this, it's having really really fast storage. And this is trying to do higher end editing, using the expensive camera and getting the best quality. They talk about camera movement. If you're doing immersive video, it's different from the traditional 2D video. um, they talk about mood and effects, and how in 2D video you might change the angle of the camera, drop it down low or from up high, to kind of give hints about the characteristics of the character you're filming. But in immersive video, where it's matching up with your eyes, it looks weird to drop the camera down really low or super high, because you're not usually lying on the floor up higher. So they were showing setting up a tripod so that it is at the height of somebody's eyes. um, I could see in the future people doing movies where they film things at child height, adult height, and maybe kind of in between, um, just to show perspective from somebody's point of view. That would be kind of interesting. But stationary, solid tripod, so there's no movement, because if you add a bunch of movement into the mix, then the eye and brain and everything disagree with each other, and you end up getting sick. So that was a nice discussion because I've seen the effects of it. I felt the effects of it. I didn't know exactly why. So it was nice to see that. And then going back and looking at some of the other videos, and looking at why maybe some of those videos are short, both because it takes a lot of time and space to do the editing, but also if you have a little bit of motion for a short amount of time, you can tolerate it. But if you have a longer feature film, you just can't do the motion that you might have in a regular movie. So that it was just interesting, and I suspect there are a whole lot of filmmakers that are going to be watching this and then going back and then practicing some shots. And the neat thing about all of this is this all kind of helps, even if you're doing your shots with an iPhone and editing it with Final Cut Pro or something else, it still all applies. The techniques that they talk about, the how to position your camera, there's a lot of basics that are nobody really knows because they haven't had a chance to get that experience, which is one reason why the Vision Pro is so useful right now, because if we want a bunch of content from when cheaper devices come out, you got to build it and you have to be able to see it. And the Vision Pro is still the best way to experience it right now.
Yeah, Eric, I got the sense from your description of this that you're not really excited about it. Am I?
It's kind of too soon, really. No, really, it's like none of this is out. I cannot get my hands on it, and even if I could, I'm not entirely sure that I can afford to rent it, but I want to. I really, really want to. So,
DaVinci Resolve is not as expensive in terms of, because I have a copy of it. And so if this follows the same pattern in terms of cost, it's not going to be as expensive as Final Cut Pro. It's not going to be as expensive as Adobe Premiere in terms of standalone products. So it might be in your ballpark to play with it.
yeah, but
Dave, do you have anything?
the
Yeah.
camera's expensive.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, there's
Yeah. Dave, you got anything on this?
yeah, there it is right there. The camera's expensive.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating. I would have to take a look at it and play with it. I don't know if I would ever be able to play it with it because it's just an incredibly expensive camera. But this is pretty interesting to see where this technology is going to go and be able to provide these kind of immersive videos. Almost looks like an old. I mean, you look at it; it's got. It looks like it's an old tape camcorder. I know it's not. It's just.
Yeah.
It is really big, but obviously resolution's insane. I mean, just the frame rates and the stereoscopic one eye to two eyes.
Yeah. Eric, is there anything that on my simple, cheap, horribly crude 16 Pro Max and spatial video that can be applied to this?
Yeah,
Or
almost
do
everything.
okay.
That was the neat thing about it is, they give you a bunch of stuff and how they're dealing with all of the complications of that much data. But if you're doing it with an iPhone, you don't have all that much data. But the instructions of stick your phone on a tripod and don't move it all over the place, and what the height of the tripod should be, put
Mhm.
it at the eye level of the person who's going to be watching it. Um, that's not something anybody really thinks about. It's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. You just put the camera wherever to get the feeling you want. Well, no, unless you spend all your life crawling around on the floor looking up, you don't want the camera that low. So the feeling you need to evoke in the viewer is done through different means, through sound, through music, through um, you know storytelling, as opposed to moving the angle of the camera.
Yeah.
And they talked a little bit about sound, but that was an extra complication. So with a phone, yeah, you can get a lot of it. They also talked a little bit about if you tried to use two cameras, and mount them and film it and then attempt to, match up those two things and put them all together and then somehow get all of the math right and then record all the metadata and transfer that. Incredibly complicated. So on this expensive camera, there's a bunch of things that are fixed that never change. I think the aperture doesn't change. There's a couple other things that don't change. If you have different brightnesses, it's just a null density filter that gets turned up or down. And because of that, the math is more consistent. So on an iPhone, it just does all of that and it writes all the metadata you need. So you can film a lot of stuff and have really good results. Not quite to the same as the expensive camera because the resolution isn't quite the same. But if you're careful, you get a lot of the same effects.
Mm-hmm. Well, I said explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, and now I'm an 8-year-old.
You've aged.
You really got a lot out of that 30-minute video, I can tell. And there are 3 articles. The first 2 articles kind of talk about the concepts. And then this third article is a YouTube video that is mentioned in a couple of the other articles, and obviously is worth the watch from what Eric shared with that. I'm going to jump ahead. Looking at time, I'm going to jump ahead into a few things. Just a mention of an article for that I thought was kind of fascinating in terms of the possibilities, but the idea that this comes from webkit.org, a step into the spatial web and the HTML model element in Apple Vision Pro. And it gives some information. Vision OS 26 brings a major update to an important block of the spatial web, the HTML model element, and gives some background, and also talks about the API, and then gives some information in terms of how to change coding and such to be able to do it. That's kind of beyond my pay grade in terms of all of this. But if you have some interest in that web development, particularly incorporating HTML as part of it, take a look at this article. You'll probably understand it a lot better than I do. And I don't know if you guys got any comments on it or had a chance to look at it.
Good.
Yeah.
Have you just in Safari looked at that new immersive mode?
Yeah.
Have you tried that?
Yeah,
Or
it's
gone
pretty
to
cool.
like a YouTube thing and then dropped
Yeah.
into it? That's also kind of fun to try.
Yeah.
So I think all of this is all going to combine together. It'll be cool.
Yeah. 2 other articles I thought, one worth mentioning. This is on Road to VR. And it is Xiaomi's unveils China's answer to the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses with a few killer features. And they do a blowout of some of the things that are available on it. Everybody's doing glasses now. Meta's trying to, it's one of their bigger products right now is the Meta Ray-Bans. And so everybody's on board trying to make some competitors to that. And we've seen them come out and announced quite a bit this week. So if you don't get theirs, you should get ours, basically. And one of the most interesting native features, though, is the ability to simply look at an Alipay QR code, which is ubiquitous across the country, and pay for goods and services with a vocal prompt. So that's one of the cool new elements. They have electrochromatic lenses and 3 different price points depending on the lens that you're going to get with it. So $280, $380, $420 are the different price points. You going to run out and buy one?
No.
There are Xiaomi Genius bars in China. So if something goes wrong, you can just go over to China, go to the Genius bar, and get your glasses worked on.
Oh, I'll fly right over.
Last article before we get into an app is 2 cool image editors for Vision Pro. And Petal is one of those, a photo editor app for Vision Pro that shows your photos in a grid variations and allow you to add filters and view at them. And then Bloom is an app that lets you edit raw images on your Vision Pro and lets you adjust exposure, change white balance, and do a whole lot more. It supports raw files from various popular cameras. So 2 to look at. Kind of, if you forget, just think flower. Petal and Bloom. And I guess you can find those in the Vision Pro App Store. So that's all we've got in terms of news for the show tonight. Want to remind you that you can check out all these links by going to either in the podcast version of this, just look at the show notes within the podcast, or you can also find them in the YouTube version of it. And a reminder that you can find our channel at youtube.com/@visionprofiles, and you'll see the links to the videos there. Dave, you're up. You found the app that we're going to talk about this week. Or I guess you're going to talk about this week. And it's a question that people have had for a long time. And when you sent it to me and you said, "Hey, I'll put it in the notes," there was a sense I could hear a sense of excitement in your voice. So why don't you tell us about it now?
It was. I've really loved this app for a while. It's called Bezel, made by a company called Nonstrip. It's out of the Netherlands in the EU, and they created this app about a few years ago, and it's progressed. It's at version 3 now, and it's one of my go-to favorite images as far as the app itself for sharing your iPhone and being able to record it. But I didn't even realize that they did this until just now this week, and this is their version of the app that you can show your iPhone inside the Apple Vision Pro. And the link that we're gonna have in the show notes is actually with the software developer, and basically it's gonna show a readable iPhone on your Vision Pro, so you'll be able to hold your phone up. You'll see it just enough. It dims it out so you can see. You can touch the iPhone in front of you, but it's going to be on your immersive screen on a Vision Pro and being able to interact with it very easily. This is the first time I've seen them be able to do this wirelessly, because the original version of Bezel, you have to use a USB-C cable to your computer to be able to project it and connect it to the app. Well, now what they've done is with the Vision Pro, there's an app. It's $5, and then there's also an app that you'd have to download onto the iPhone, and it isn't really a used app. It's more so that when you open up the Vision Pro, it will sense that app is there, and then it connects to the iPhone, and then voila, you see it out in front of you. Very slick, very cool. And I was playing around a little bit last night, and the Bezel app has a built-in recorder, which is another great thing about what Bezel does, because usually you'd have to use a screen capture for a program, and of course this motivated me because I'm going to talk about it next. Next week. So it's very sharp, it's not fuzzy at all. The tools are stunning. It does a 3-dimensional spin of the iPhone, fully wireless. Like I said, the iOS app is free, and you can do multiple devices. Think about that. If you want to be able to do an iPad and an iPhone. I haven't tried the iPad yet. And I don't know if it works with the iPad. It may only be iPhone right now. But if you had multiple iPhones, and I'm going to try it. I have my 16E and 16 Pro Max. The 16E is on iOS 26, so the beta. So, but absolutely beautiful app, and these guys have knocked it out of the park with Bezel. I really love it. And the one thing you have to do is you have to make sure when you go, you can't directly download the app on the Vision Pro. I've tried. Even the link that says the app, there's some sort of bug that's saying this is for the Vision Pro, but you can't download it. So You have to do it from the iPhone, and then the iPhone automatically brings you over to the Vision Pro app that's on the iPhone. Then you can add it that way.
So explain that to me again. That
Sure.
because when I searched for it this afternoon, I saw bezel, and then I looked at it was device. The devices were iPhone, iPad, I think Mac OS, but there was no
Right.
Vision OS in it. And so I searched for it and said bezel for Vision OS, and I got the actual App Store link. So what I've
But
got
the App
is
Store link doesn't. It's so weird. It doesn't work on the Vision Pro, even though it is the Vision Pro App Store link. For some reason, you have to go to that App Store link that's for specifically Vision Pro. It's on their website, which is the nonstrict.eu/bezel/vision. You should. I think I gave you that second link. And download the App Store. I do it right from the iPhone, and then the iPhone brings it over to the Vision Pro app on the iPhone, and then it will install on the Vision Pro.
That's weird.
Very weird.
That
then you,
is
of course,
weird.
have to go. They may be doing it because they're forcing you to also make sure that you download the iOS version of the app specific for the Vision Pro, because that iOS app will only work with the Vision Pro. It's not for right now in any way. They haven't made that iOS app to be used only for the mere fact of being able to link it to the Vision Pro, because right now it's still wired.
Yeah, the iOS app is free. Is that right?
It's absolutely free. Yes. And then the Vision Pro app itself was $5.
Right. Yeah. So I'm surprised that they have that extra step in of making you download the iOS
I don't know.
app.
I didn't see anybody talking about it on Reddit or anything like that. Someone did have the link later, and I'm trying to find where it was, but I can't seem to find it. But yeah, it took me a good 40 minutes or so to figure that out.
So does this mean I can manage my iPhone then while I have my Vision Pro headset on?
Yep.
Because I just, it's just there, and I can respond to a call or do whatever I need to.
You'll have your iPhone in front of you, and it's gonna bring the Vision Pro's view enough that you could see the phone. You can interact with it, and but the view, because if you go to the site, it's got a video showing what it actually does.
Yeah.
And you can leave it below, and it still would be fine if you didn't want it in front of you. But you can move it up or down, and it and it does portrait, landscape modes, and like it says, it mirrors multiple devices. And it has a guided setup for all new devices, and it is fast. I'm impressed. I can't believe I didn't find this, and I think this is about a year ago this came out, and I don't know. I guess the developer hasn't really pursued it much other than this release, so they're still selling it.
So Eric, is this a Christmas present you were looking for?
Yeah, I'll give it a try, because I've been doing on the device. I would mirror it to the Apple Vision Pro.
Right.
And it was close-ish, but this sounds like this might be a little bit more responsive. So
it's just like it's like the phone is in your virtual world. Literally.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I already bought it. As soon as we are done here, then I will hop back in and take a peek.
I say, if you got multiple iPhones, I didn't try the iPad yet. I'm curious now, but it may not be compatible.
Yeah. And Brian mentions that it was a nice app recommendation, Dave. It looks useful. And I kind of want to try this because it just seems like it's going to be very cool to be able to do. So, okay, so let's wrap for tonight. Is there anything else y'all want to add? We're all going to be together in 11 days.
In a tease, I'll be talking about this at MacStock.
Yeah. And I'll be at MacStock as soon as I finish working on my talks. My son is going to be presenting with me, and I'm taking him to the airport on Wednesday, and have you worked on the talks, Dad? I'm like, no. And he's going out. Michael, no. Last year I gave him my talk on a thing like an hour before I was ready to give it. I'll do better than that on this one.
That's why I use my own laptop.
Yeah. I'll do better on this one. He wants a copy, of course, for for streaming purposes or whatever. I'll get it. I'll definitely get it done the night before I show up, and try and work it out. I'm still struggling with content ideas and things like that, but
Me too.
yeah. We'll all be there, and maybe we'll cut a show there. Dave and I and Eric have been talking about ways to set that up and do it. And when is going to be the biggest problem. Where is going to be the second problem, because it's a really pretty booked schedule. You can find out about MacStock simply by going to macstockconferenceandexpo.com. There is the actual live experience and event, which you can purchase tickets for. It's a 3-day conference, little short bits of information on, so plenty of diversity in the kinds of talks we're giving. And then they'll have an eCam room for people who want to learn more or test out some stuff with the eCam there. If you can't make it to the event, go to macstockconferenceandexpo.com and look at buying a virtual ticket, which means you'll get the presentations at a lower cost in 30 days after the experience. If you want $50 off from the live event, you can use the code PodTalk50, which is a discount code that Mike gave us. And all of our shows have a discount code, and we appreciate that for the listeners. Guys, thanks for doing this. Again, every week. This is our 60th episode, and it's just become kind of a regular part. And I enjoy working with you and getting your ideas and putting together the show each week. And thanks to the listeners who are tuning in and either listening to the podcast later on. Some folks are coming into the YouTube video, and we appreciate that. But thank you for tuning in. We'd love to hear from our listeners. If you have any ideas or want to join an episode, email us at visionprofilespodcast@gmail.com or the podtalknetwork@gmail.com. It's probably the better place to catch us. I've got to change the show notes to reflect that so I don't read it. The podtalknetwork@gmail.com. Our bumper music is Free Jazzy by Steve Combs, courtesy of the Free Music Archive. Learn more about us and Vision Profiles podcast at our website, thepodtalk.net. I'm going to have to clean that one up before we get to MacStock 2 to make sure everything and everybody's on it, and some consistency across the website. But you can learn a lot from thepodtalk.net. Spread the word to other visionaries. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.